Welcome to the concluding part of my review on Baby Farm. So I shall be reviewing episode 3 to 5. Episode 3 actually starts on a high note. If you recall, Adana was caught during her escape attempt, and well, she's not directly punished, but instead, every other maker who is currently not pregnant is passionately whipped on her behalf. That's on the orders of Sister Barbara. The blogger outside who captured the escape thing was rescued by another lady, that other lady who had been looking for her sister MM because she was being heckled by the security people outside the Evans Foundation. I don't know if rescued is the correct word, since these security men seem barely able to prevent her from jumping into a car that just parked like 2 meters away from them. Around episode 3 is where the seams in this otherwise interesting and glowing story about child trafficking begins to show because because for some reason the writers decided to throw in a lot of red herrings which don't end up having any logical or even illogical conclusion. It's just so crazy. So for example, Adana receives a note telling her not to trust Ebun. For some reason, she said she shares it with this other girl whose face I actually really like, Itunu, and even goes to the trouble of asking this abortion belt wearing nurse Achinedu, like, by the way, is that fashion? Like, is the guy okay? Is it a nurse thing or what? Now, Adana walks up to this guy and says, you get person where they try trust and they say make I no trust. I don't know. Sometimes the script in this movie can be a bit off and you wonder if maybe you missed a scene. And the very first thing that Echinedu says is, do you trust Ebun? Even though Ebun's name was not mentioned in this conversation. So you get the idea that perhaps the letter was sent by Chinedu. But by episode 5, this piece of knowledge is made redundant. And I'll show you when we get there. Now, while Adana is trying to figure out if to trust Ebon or not, she begins to have some contractions. We also learned during this time that Ebon has been here for about 6 years and she has always been told that she lost the baby after each of the 6 pregnancies that she has had. Wow, which is crazy. And by the way, I don't know, I'm not sure about Genoviva Ume's acting sometimes because I can't tell if Ebon is supposed to be like mentally retarded or what. Sometimes she talks well enough, and other times she has this expression of rabid joy that is incongruent to whatever she's saying at that moment. Oh, and by the way, Adana, we also learned that Adana is having twins. So, in order to maybe legitimize what the Evans Foundation is doing with Cherise, they announced Cherise as ambassador, and the blogger who had previously been blacklisted by the organization gets into the press conference by by just coming. She has no pass, no press pass, and then she just wraps her hands around this guy that is just standing there like a statue. Like, it's almost like it's his lifelong dream to be touched by a woman. Like, just look at his face. He doesn't even turn to look. Is it like he's afraid that the moment will not end? Come on, man. Behave like. Is he an actor? Sometimes, let me just. So the blogger begins to heckle Echaris at during the question and answer thing. But the point is that she's beginning to put 2 and 2 together about the reason for the ambassadorship, which is to distract from the fact that Cheris might soon adopt a baby from the foundation. I want to point out this exchange at the press conference.
I think the world would be a better place if we pay more attention to more important issues than celebrity dirt.
What could be more important than celebrity deaths?
This actress, I had to Google her, called Fulu Storms. That name is familiar somewhat. Maybe I heard it many years ago. I don't know if her dialogue was written by a goat sometimes, or is it that she cannot act? Because a lot of times she acts a bit weird, even the way she laughs is a bit awkward. But for me, the most important thing is what she says. It's always like it's written by somebody who is not following the rest of the movie. I mean, she's right on the money, but I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. But if you watch it, maybe you understand it. Back at the foundation, Itunu, who at the beginning was shown to be some sort of overly religious maker, but which is somehow she stopped talking about God after that first time. Itunu informs Adana that Ebun might not be trustworthy since she scampers off after lunch each day to see Sister Barbara. This is another illogical nonsense red herring because when confronted, Ebu says that she has been asking Sister Barbara to give them more food. Okay, so let me even think about it. So you leave the dining hall and the caterer who is serving the food and walk across the entire building or organization, walk across some doors and rooms until you get to Barbara's office to sit down there and ask her for food. Like you left the cafeteria. I mean, now at this exact point, I believed her. It's just that it was just how stupid it sounded, as a red herring, because we were thinking that maybe she's actually a mole. Now, soon after, someone anonymously drops a key for Adana while she's having a bath and tells her what door it opens in order to help her escape the next time she wants to make an escape attempt. Now, at the beginning of episode 4, Ebun, who had first, well, it turns out, lied that she was going to ask for food from Barbara during her afternoon excursion, then implies without saying it directly, which is a thing that I cannot actually make it up, but it happens a lot in this series, where someone doesn't actually come out and say something, so it just leaves it hanging in the air as to the meaning of what they say. So Ebun implies to Ada that she was actually spying for the Evans and had informed them of Ada's first attempt at escaping through the laundry basket so that the other girls would be safe. It's not super clear, and if you watch the scene, you understand. It is implied that she was the one who informed them of the escape, right? But if this is even true, it is another illogical conclusion. Why? Because she has the run of the place. She could see Barbara at any point, anytime at the day or night. So why is it during her lunch hour that she goes there? And what is she possibly saying every day? Adana is the only person who has begun to foment trouble since she got here. And it's not like she's planning to escape every day. So what are you discussing with Sister Barbara about her escape? Now listen to this. Seconds later, Ebun is called to Sister Barbara's office, and Barbara starts with the whole, "Oh, you owe me, I've taken care of you, I've given you food," and begins to cajole and coerce and silently threaten her, and then asks her to talk about Adana's plan for escape. So, which then means that Ebun, all this while that she has been going to the office, has never spoken about the escape before. Else, Barbara would not be coercing her to talk now. Like, it was just doing my mind in as I was watching it. So if Ebun had not been talking to Barbara about Adana, even though she basically just implied that she had, so what exactly has she then actually been going to see Sister Barbara during lunch for? So you see what I mean when I say it's a very stupid distraction, very stupid red herring that turns on itself. Because even if you follow it, it has no logical conclusion. It's just a labyrinth of stupendously bad writing. Another example of maybe the consequence of a cut scene that we're not aware about and acting is this swimming pool scene with Cherise and her husband, Akin. If there is anyone in the comment who actually understand this better than me, I would really like to understand what's happening here. Aki says that they should be pulling out soon. He says something about them having to pull out soon, but I don't really know what that means. In the last scene at the Evans Foundation, he was very excited to have the babies because he had spoken with the doctor, though, yes, he was a little worried about the blogger heckling his wife at the press conference and perhaps suspecting that she might be adopting a baby. But what do you mean pull out soon? Pull out of what? He already knew that the Evans Foundation had a bit of a K-leg and that they would just jump across some red tape in order to give them a baby. So is he saying that they should pull out of the country, pull out of the deal? Why? He also says that they are on the brink, like at this swimming pool, he says we are on the brink of getting everything we have ever dreamed of. But as far as I remember, what they are doing in Nigeria is shooting a movie. So what is he talking about? What brink? If you don't want the baby, then what is the brink you are yapping about? Is there? So I felt this scene looked like it was after a missing scene. The swimming pool, whole thing was so weird for me for some other reasons, because the dialogue here is very hackneyed. Like they talk like they are doing the rehearsals for the actual acting and not the actual thing yet. The scene is also completely manufactured so that these two can have a conflict. But I don't really buy it at all. Rita Domnic all this while has held back on going the Evans route until her husband clearly told her that he would support her. But now, days later, it seems like she's now emboldened to threaten him out of nowhere and says if he doesn't want to do it with her, which I don't know why he would say a thing like that, then she would do it herself with or without him. But how would it work without him exactly? This was a very rubbish scene. It was so badly written, badly acted, and honestly, Rita Domnic's, I don't know, stiff expression doesn't really work for me. She's always looking brooding. So I don't know, is it a Botox, or is that how she thinks she should be emoting? But I don't know, this scene just made me feel like, this lady should not have been used for this role. The blogger is soon murdered by a henchman from the Evans Foundation while MM's sister escapes in the nick of time. Adana makes another escape attempt, but Itunu rats them out. She was with both Itunu and Ebu, so you get the idea that okay, so Itunu was actually the mole, and during the escape attempt, she falls into some contractions, so she can't make it anymore. So she sends Ebu on ahead with the missing persons poster and asks her to call the number, which is MM's sister. She later then falls into labor and gives birth to twins, which she is not allowed to touch. Much sad, very touching. Now, the Evans Foundation is hosting. Evans Foundation are hosting a fundraiser. So you see, you can learn some good stuff on this channel. Evans Foundation is a company, so it's R, not is. The Evans Foundation are hosting a charity fundraiser with Cherise as host. But MM's sister manages to enter the place and inform Cherise that the foundation was actually a baby farm and not an adoption agency, as she would have believed. And she proved some of this by showing Cherise the picture of the dead body of the blogger who had been heckling her. She's quite rattled at this, that's Cherise, and leaves the event with her husband immediately, to the great surprise of Dr. Evans. At the beginning of episode 5, now we learn, and I've been suspecting actually that the mentally disabled girl, NEA, in the baby farm had been pretending all along so that they could just basically give her free run of the place. And she had used that opportunity and access to steal the key that she had then passed to Adana to escape with that other time. So now things are suddenly urgent because she learns that Nurse Chinedu and the doctors are all planning to kill her. You see that illogical red herring again. That so how did no let me just go. Let me just go. I don't have power for this. But so now things are suddenly urgent, and she tells Adana that they have to escape before she is killed. From here on, it's like the script was completed by a rabbit who showered in cocaine. It's honestly very chaotic, but the plan is to dress up like the janitors or the helpers. Adana couldn't find her twins, so she decides to rush into Barbara's office to see if there will be any information into where the twins were taken. But it turns out that while she was looking for the information, NEA was killed outside, right there in the reception, actually. In truth, Dr. Evans had taken the twins already to go and meet Cherise at her hotel. Now, recall that Cherise was feeling a bit weird about the news, so the doctor had quickly rushed out to deliver the twins to her so that she could then be an accomplice and therefore unable to expose the foundation. Now, the scene in which the formerly mentally disabled the NEA dies is so funny. Adana holds up. It was a very weird scene. So, Sister Barbara, while investigating the death of NEA right there, happens to barge into the office and Adana holds her up with a gun. So ask her to lead her to where Cherise is staying so that they can get her babies back. And they have to pass the reception while the security people who actually murdered her are still there deliberating over the dead body. And I have never seen so many people act so deliberately blind in a confined space before. Like, this was insane. How is this even possible? Is Adana made of air? Is she wearing the canopy of God or what? How do the security men not even look in the direction of Barbara, one of their bosses? Like, they are right there. It doesn't even turn. Like, see how awkwardly she tries not to look at them. Like, I tell you, things were really weird in this episode. MM's sister and Ebun, on their part, end up retrieving and propping up the dead body of the blogger in front of the Evans Foundation and included some documents in order to expose their shady dealings. And this is what actually draws the attention of the general public and the police to the place. Now we come to the final act, and oh my lord, Adana and Barbara, right? They reach Cherise's hotel and find the doctor in the celebrity's hotel room with the twins. Now, apparently, Cherise and Akin have already checked out. And how is the door still open? The doctor and Barbara have an argument about the babies because Sis is scared and just wants them to forget this whole baby farm matter and leave the country and start life elsewhere. But the doctor is having none of it. And he actually insists on shooting Adana because she has made so much trouble for them since she joined. And by the way, I don't know how they enter this hotel room. There is, I think it's a card lock on the door, and hotel doors can only usually be opened from the inside without the key. So I don't know. When Dr. Evans finally decides to shoot Adana, he ends up killing Ebun, who happened to just throw her body in front of the bullet. And you then wonder, how did how did they get here? How did Ebu get into the hotel room? Well, I can tell you, by virtue of being part human being and part Holy Spirit, because that is the only way that she can already be in a hotel suite that has only one door with MM's sister. Yeah, sure, they came to the hotel room from the basement and somehow managed to somehow discover Cherish's room, a celebrity, which is almost nearly impossible. But how did they get inside when the doctor was already there? All hotel rooms have one door, right? So I had to Google the writer after this point. It turns out that the writer had 1 or 2 screenwriting award nominations. And I'm here laughing and wondering how this guy, who also happens to be a travel writer, doesn't seem to know how hotels work. I mean, if Akin and Cherise are gone and drop the key of at the reception of the hotel, then how come the people at the reception didn't stop Barbara or MM's sister or even the doctor they when they came in to see the people and informed them that the couple had checked out? The door to the hotel room was still somehow open for all these stupid shenanigans to take place. Did Mo Abudu or the writer fall down the staircase before writing the final episode? Because now I am happy on this because this is possibly the most important part of this entire episode, if not the whole series. So the fact that this foundation is so shaky is unbelievable to me, especially as the writer is a travel writer who should have known better. Afterwards, the Evans hurriedly go back to their office because they learn about the police presence. Now, get this, they just walk into the Evans Foundation and the police just let them do it. Like, they didn't even bother them. Recall, the police have the makers arrested, the cleaners, the security guards, the henchmen. They have the body of the blogger and even her expose and the documents. Yet, when they see the owners of the foundation, which is the epicenter of all this rubbish, they just treat them as if they are passers-by. No arrest, no questions, no nothing. Talking about there's an investigation going on. Bro, you're supposed to arrest these people. And this is all before corruption had entered the whole thing, because the chief of police, which makes no sense since we don't have such a title in Nigeria, calls them forward to talk to them. And of course, it turns out that the chief of police, whatever that means, is corrupt and asks them to destroy the evidence as soon as possible. Now, this next sequence, I want to explain it a bit clearly. So it's night at the hotel, and first of all, madam, why are you and the policeman nodding like he just came to visit you and gist? Why are you closing the hotel door? Is that not where Ebu died a few hours ago and where Cherise and her hubby just escaped from? So did sister and Adana pay an extra night at this luxury hotel or what? Is it your new house? This is still a crime scene, right? You don't just get to stay in a luxury hotel crime scene because you were there when the crime happened. The place should have been oh my lord. The weird thing here is that the police had already bagged the body of Ebun. They had taken her out to the ambulance, and they must have been told, of course, by the witnesses that she had been shot by Dr. Evans of the Evans Foundation. Yet, how come Dr. Evans is still somehow free at the foundation, restoring evidence? This is just insane. Anyway, the doctor and the wife tried to burn the place down that night. Again, it's crazy to me that they are even still free in the first place, even if there's corruption involved. But Barbara somehow decides to turn her husband to Suya, at the last moment, along with the evidence, before presumably making her escape. And that is how the whole thing ends. And now we can go to the verdict. I think it started out pretty strong. I really liked the acting, I liked the direction, and I liked the lead actress. I believe Onyinye Odokoro, who plays Adana, was perfectly cast. I think she bodied the role perfectly. From episode 3, though, I'm not exactly sure what happened to the story in general. Unfortunately, I was less than impressed with the audio quality. There was always this hissing sound in the background, and I think that every audio engineer should really concentrate on removing the generator sounds from the footage. By episode 5, things began to happen way too fast. They could have extended the material to maybe 6 or 7 episodes to give the events more space to breathe, because there were so many Hollywood shenanigans that happened in such a short time that it was just too wild to believe. So for something that had held my interest from at least the first 3 episodes very strongly, I was quite disappointed that they rushed episode 5 so much. I'm not sure how popular this show was. I reviewed it, it didn't get much views, so I can only, I don't know, maybe assume that people didn't search for it because it wasn't so popular. But I still decided to complete it because I thought it was a very good show. In the end, I still think it's more than the sum of its parts. I think it was well done in general. Yeah, episode 5 was a bit of a disappointment, but to be honest, it is very rewatchable. So why did I still review it? Because it's cool. I think it was a good attempt. That writing, that whole hotel thing was really a weak point. But yeah, maybe I could just pretend that I didn't notice it. But yeah, I think in general, it's a fantastic. It's a pretty good show. I wouldn't call it fantastic. If I was going to give it a rating, let's say over 5, I would give it a 3.9. For the first 3 episodes, I would give it like a 4.5 over 5. But as it went further, it just started this downward spiral that was thankfully arrested by the short 5 episodes. So yeah, so that's it from me. If you enjoy this kind of content, you can follow me on IG and on Twitter. See you on the next one.